Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to my very, very first LinkedIn Live Creative Lifescaping. My goal is to find people who think they're not creative or who are traditionally not creative and interview them so you can hack their tips for how you can use creativity to make your life better. We all can benefit from being better humans because we've got enough robots already. So it is my great pleasure today to introduce Moshe. Did I say your name right? I forgot
Yeah,
to ask you.
yes, perfect.
So
Hi.
welcome, Moshe. Moshe is so interesting. We met through LinkedIn, so the power of social media. Moshe is a product management leader, and the reason we connected to be on this interview is that he's an author of the upcoming book, The Resurrector. In product management, Moshe started his career in the engineering side, not traditionally very creative, specifically within the enterprise real-time B2B software space. He fell in love with product management, who doesn't, after seeing the gap that existed between what customers wanted and what engineering produced. Moshe enjoys applying his lean iterative technique to develop products that exceed users' expectations. Being a creative person, Moshe paints and writes, bringing his Jewish heritage into all his creative endeavors. His book, The Resurrector, is coming out December 2021, yay, with New Degree Press, and is dealing with fathers and some sons' relationships, foreign cultures, a key element of creativity, by the way, and the question, if someone we lost is coming back to us from the dead, can we get the closure we need? Moshe lives in Toronto with his wife and 3 daughters. He can't stand the cold winters. Join the club, but he loves his Canadian home and the maple trees all over. Thank you so much for joining me today,
Thank
Moshe.
you so much for having me. This is a pleasure.
Isn't social media great? Like, we never would have met. I don't
Yeah,
even know how we connected on LinkedIn, but it was a fantastic connection. I'm so thankful.
I know. Me too. And then also to figure out that we're both Canadians, so that was also great. Although, I'm not discouraging anyone that is not Canadian to connect with us. So
Yeah, international is better. And actually, that's one of the things in the data that helps people become creative. CEOs who had spent like a stint abroad at a different location, a different international location, were more creative than CEOs who didn't travel. So
well, that's
having an
interesting to know.
international and diverse culture is key for creativity.
Yeah.
That's great. And so you do consider yourself creative, Moshe. Like, you've always considered yourself a creative person. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Since I was a really little kid, I always did love to paint and do something creative with my hands. But the society and the culture I was growing up with didn't really encourage that. So I always had to kind of fight for it or do it on my own. Not really hide it, but it's not a real thing for a career. That's what I was told.
You weren't celebrated for your creativity. It was tolerated, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah.
I think a lot of us can relate to that for sure. It's tolerated, but not encouraged.
Yeah, I mean, my parents, I remember they did hang some of my drawings on the walls in our apartment when I was young, so they liked it. I think they told me I'm talented. But when I said, "Oh, I want to be an artist," they're like, "No, you don't."
Well, parents are always just trying to look out for us, right? And they probably worried about, your sustainability in a career like being an artist.
Yeah.
But it's hard because so many people, and myself included, go through this more non-creative career, but so many people come back to it over and over as they get older. They feel like something's missing. Some people seem to identify that creativity is what's missing. Some people just go through life not knowing what's missing, which is the whole point of the series, is to help people see how other people do it, like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you've always considered yourself a creative. And then you went into a traditionally non-creative type career. So
Yes.
how do you think your creativity has changed since that young boy who had drawings on his on the apartment wall to now your creativity being an author?
Yeah, that was a very, very long journey that I also had, ups and downs throughout that entire journey. So I think since I was 10, I thought, okay, I'm going to be an architect because it is something that, it's a good profession. It's still very creative. You design buildings, exterior design, interior design, and all of that stuff. But then I founded myself going through this program in the army back in Israel for software development. So I was like, okay, maybe I will develop software for architects or something like that, which didn't really happen. So I was a bit kind of like torn between the two, but it was a very good profession to have, and I enjoy doing it. And what I realized after some time was that building software is also a creative thing, because you're creating something that was not there before. You have the tools, you have so you don't have pen and brushes and whatever. You have your language, and then the computer, so software development language, and the computer you're using, and the databases, all that stuff. And then you have to build something that wasn't there. So I found the creativity there. So that was actually a good insight to have. And then during the years, I always wanted to continue doing something creative that is not just work. So there were times that I would paint. There were times that I would do stained glass. There were times that I would do ceramics. So I found courses here and there just to try different new medias and things. But then one time I was laid off. My job just ended up because the company closed up. And I was like, yeah, maybe I should be an artist now. It didn't work out.
Can I ask how old were you when that happened?
That happened, I was 38. Okay. So it was the first time I lost my job. I already had 3 kids, mortgage to pay, and 3 kids to feed. So it wasn't very easy. So while looking for a new job in software development, I was also painting a lot and connecting with a lot of artists and stuff like that. But this is a very long-term type of thing that you have to invest a lot into it. It just, I couldn't, it didn't work for me. So I went back to the engineering side and then product management. And then I found writing. Actually, it did started from trying to be an artist, because I was writing a blog, and also I was a guest blogger on a blog for artists that they liked my post on my blog, so they reached out to me and asked me if I want to be a guest, and I said, yeah, sure, why not? And basically I wrote about my experience trying to be an artist. And then I saw that I really enjoy writing, and I wrote a few articles for a local newspaper, a Hebrew newspaper in Toronto. It doesn't exist anymore, but I still have, I think, a stack of the newspapers from back then. And when I saw that I enjoy writing, I was like, this is also very creative. I replaced my tools again from paintings to from paint and brushes to words, and it's actually much cheaper and much easier because you can take it anywhere you want. You don't have to buy expensive paint. You don't have to be in one place to sit down and wait for the paint to dry and all of that stuff. So I started writing, just for myself, and then I saw that I enjoyed it, and that's how it all started.
Yeah, that's the rest is history. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And for anybody who's joining us live, who's joining a little bit late, I'm Caroline Brookfield, and I'm interviewing Moshe today. And Moshe is a product management engineer turned fictional author. I always mix those up. I always mix fiction and nonfiction up. And we're chatting about how Moshe has used creativity in his life to make it better and to make his life more joyous. And you can hack some of his techniques. And I love what you were saying, Moshe, about coming back to creativity and art. And I hear you saying a lot about creativity with respect to painting and writing. So how do you define creativity? Like, many people think creativity is painting and arting, art, painting and writing. But you also alluded to using creativity as a software designer. So has that been a change for you from when you were young to now, meaning that your scope or definition of creativity has changed? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that the core for me of being creative is something I alluded to before, creating something new, creating something that wasn't there before. So that's really the core of it. But there is always opportunities there to explore that when you are on the process to create that something new. How do you create it? How do you get there? And getting there is not always, obvious, and you have to take a lot of small steps to actually get to the final result. When you're talking about painting or writing, it's very obvious. You have to put paint on the canvas, and then you have to make a shape and whatever. With the software, I learned throughout the process of this and doing many different positions in software development and being a product manager, that there is the people that I need to really make the software for, those personas of people that will use it, problems that I have to identify so they solve them, etc. So this product solve it. So all of that was really learning about how do I do these things. And to do these things, sometimes it's not very simple. I mainly work in B2B, business to business products, digital products. And those are even harder to find your users. So just as an example, finding new users, how do you find them? You have to be creative with that as well. So creativity there is not just about finding, creating something new from something that didn't exist before, but it's also, I have to get to a goal, I have to reach somewhere, and I have obstacles on the way. How do I go around these obstacles and make it happen? Sometimes it is with the specific tools I'm using. Sometimes it's new ideas I never thought about before, and other people told me, oh, you can try this or you can try that. So creativity is really all of that.
It's very all-encompassing, and I like your definition and inclusion for all of those different aspects, because according to Adobe, only 41% of people think they're creative, and only 31% of people think they're living up to their creative potential. But I believe, and I'm interested in your thoughts, I believe that most people are creative every day. They just don't recognize it as creativity. And then that also self-perpetuates this idea that creativity is fluffy, or for grandmas or for kids, as opposed to really thinking as creativity as a way of life to differentiate ourselves in both our life and our work and our professional life. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree that it's much more prevalent, and it's in everywhere that you go and every person that you see than people actually think.
And I think people, I think people think that it's just life, but like they're creative because they're humans, but they don't think of it that way, maybe.
Yeah, I guess so. It's to me, creativity is like one of my top 10 core values of who I am. So it's a very important value for me, and therefore I'm very mindful about it. But people that are not mindful about it may think, oh, we're not creative, where they actually are. So they, when you take, you have lots of errands to run, and you take your kids to school, and then you have to drop someone somewhere else, and you just plan the route how to get there that will be the most efficient. That's creative, because you could spend a lot of time and money going around in circles, or you can do the best route, and some people do that, and they are creative in that way. So there are different ways you can think about it.
I agree 100%. So I want to talk a little bit about your book. So it's a little unusual to meet, a product manager, despite your creative background, who, launched into writing a fictional book called The Resurrector. So what motivated you to write that book? And you told us a little bit about how you've written blog posts, but is this your first book? And what motivated you to write this particular book?
Yeah, so it's a very interesting story. Well, maybe not that interesting, but to me. So in 2013, that's where I actually started writing it. My daughter, she was in grade 9, and she's also really talented writer. I always saw that talent in her, and I have 3 girls, and in each one of them, I like to see, what is their talent and what are they passionate about, and direct them to do that, because I think they will be much happier in their life if they really use that. She decided back then to participate in NaNoWriMo. That's the National Novel Writing Month that happens every November. And people all over the world, they sit down and they write a book. It's kind of a motivational thing, because writing a book, in their definition, is 50,000 words. And to write 50,000 words in a month, it's a big thing to conquer. You have to have a story. And it's pretty time consuming. So I told her, sure, yeah, I mean, do that. I actually love the idea. And then I told her, I want to join you. I want to do it too. So a few friends from her high school also did that. And what we did, we started doing that. We started writing, but I also kind of did NaNoWriMo parties where we invited them for a few hours in our house, and we sat around the table and we all sat down and wrote together. And we had, snacks and drinks and whatever, non-alcoholic, of course. And and the idea, so that was when I sat down and started writing it, because I had this nugget of idea in my head, but I always like, I don't have time for it and whatever. And one of the things I liked about that one, and in general, and that's also what I like about New Degree Press that I'm publishing the book with, I like to have scheduled and milestones to reach. And sometimes if I have to put them myself, I will just like, oh yeah, I can do it another month, another year, and whatever. But if it's something that comes from, outside, sometimes it's actually easier for me to actually, okay, that's it, I have to do it. So I had the idea in my head for some time. I don't remember how long, but the idea of the resurrector came from these few words in the Jewish prayer about the resurrection of the dead. There is a belief that in the Jewish, I think also Christianity, but that after the days of the Messiah, God will resurrect all the dead. And I was thinking, I love books with some mystery in them and also some magical realism. And what if something like that can happen? So I was thinking, what if, it could happen, not for everyone, all the dead. I mean, that's going to be a lot of people. I don't know if the world can sustain that. But what if it will be one person? What it will be if it's one person? And then, so I started it by basically having this family sitting down for Shiva, the mourning period after their son passed away. This person comes in, is a stranger. He gives the power to one family member to see the dead person that passed away. And this is where it all started. And during NaNoWriMo, I was like, every day I had to think about, okay, how do I move the story forward? How does it move forward? So every day it had to move forward a bit more. And by the end of the month, I had 50,000 words.
Wow.
Yeah.
And your daughter, did she have 50,000 words too?
She also had 50,000 words. Her book is still in the drawer somewhere, I think. She's not writing that much these days, at least fiction. She's writing, for school. She's in school and stuff like that. But I still encourage her and I tell her, you have talent that you have to use. You should use it one day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you talk about your daughter's kind of moving in a different direction right now, and your background as far as finding. I always think of it like, and I've had the same experience. I feel like it's like a puzzle, and I often have all these puzzle pieces, but I have a hard time sometimes fitting them together. And I think that's the beauty of following your interest and taking chances and just doing something that pulls you, because then you start seeing how those puzzles fit. You can't force them all together just sitting down and staring at them. You have to you have to work on it. So I love that story. So you alluded a little bit to some of the obstacles in your way for being creative. So things like not having a structure, having external deadlines. Are there any other obstacles, and how would you overcome them, or how would you recommend other people overcome them if they're having the same challenges?
Yeah, it's sometimes putting accountability with someone else helps. So you can tell a person, and that's what they recommend also during NaNoWriMo, to have someone else that writes with you. You're accountable for each other. It's a bit of a competition, but it's also like two runners that are running together and they help each other run forward. That's one of them. And then, different tools to break it down to smaller steps. So it's very hard to conquer a huge step. It looks like unconquerable. I cannot do that. But it's much easier if you start small and always go with baby steps. We forget when we grow up that baby steps are a real thing. Yeah. And and they really help babies to learn how to walk. And if baby would know what is expected of them in the future and what is waiting for them, maybe they will not even bother. But it's true. I mean, we don't have to do everything at once. One example, when I was doing that month, and I did it again the second year also in 2014, I have another book that I wrote that is waiting for after this one. I actually wrote on the subway every day on my way to work and back, so I had to find time to write. I wrote on my iPhone, and then I would send it to myself in an email and add it to the end of the file from the day before. So you always have to find, different places and times that you can do something to move the needle a bit, and then the needle will...
You have to be creative with your creative practice. Like
Exactly.
finding space is an excuse, right? Not to do
it. Exactly. I've seen, people sometimes say, "Oh, I don't have the tool for this. I need the tool for that." At the end of the day, the tool is not the one that's making the work. It's you that makes it work.
Right.
So you need to be creative about that as well. So it's always about being creative.
Yeah, and that's a great segue to the next question I wanted to ask you, because in my experience, fear of judgment of ourselves and fear of judgment from others is the number one thing that's holding us back. We have this outdated operating system that kept us safe when we would starve to death if we didn't have the benefit of a tribe. But now that same instinct hasn't kept pace with the way we've changed, and it holds us back. So do you think that fear of judgment from yourself or others impacts your ability to be creative, or do you think that's a factor for other people? So tell me a little bit about like the fear of judgment.
I definitely think it is, and I definitely have it. I think that this is also one of the reasons why it took me so long to actually try to publish the book. Because I started in 2013, I did a lot of different revisions. I had a few beta readers that read it maybe 5-6 years ago, and I edited again and again. I think I went through 7 or 8 revisions, but I always had that fear of actually publishing it, because that judgment, what if people will not like it? What if people will think the story is about me, but it's not? Stuff like that.
So how did you get over that? So like, how did you overcome that? Because you're publishing in December.
Yes, I think that it's a 2 things. One of them is time that passed by, and I kind of grew up a bit. And that's something personally for me. Everyone has different, stages for growing up, and we always grow up until, the last day. I think we always grow up with learning and whatever. And for me, things sometimes take a bit of time to actually manifest themselves into an action. And then the second part is once I saw this opportunity, and I found it also through LinkedIn, to publish with this publisher. I was like, yeah, well, why not? I will just try it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I sent them the manuscript, and I waited, and I was like, oh, if they don't like it, they don't like it. And then they accepted it and they liked it. And I'm like, oh, okay, they liked it. So maybe there is something there. So
yeah, I love that. It's feeling the fear. It's not that you don't have that fear, but you just realize that your desire to do this outweighs the fear.
That's true. And also going back to the baby step, it was all one step at a time. I didn't think about the next step yet.
Well, I think we get so used to, when we're pretty confident in our career, especially mid-career, we're not used to things being hard, and we're not used to stepping into an uncertain environment and wondering what if they don't like it, or how is it going to work out, because we're usually pretty capable mid-career, and we've lost this ability to step into the discomfort and take baby steps and fail. And I think that you're the perfect example of sending it to a publisher. If they don't like it, they don't like it. Like, the world's not going to end, right? And that's one of the things that you've done a lot of what I talk about, which is risk risk identification. Like, what's the risk? I'm not going to lose my house because they don't like my book, right? So we have a few comments here. So we have a comment from Daniel, who says, you're one creative person, and Margaret agrees. Alexis comments that she's done a NaNoWriMo tool. A lot of time in writing, but so much fun, especially when you get to have those writing parties and write with others. So
yes.
Was that a fun environment when you had the writing parties?
Oh yeah, not only that, it's fun, it's really make you sit down and focus and concentrate and write. We had one party actually that we did it on the subway. So we went all the way from Finch Station, which is on the northeast side of Toronto. All the way it goes like it's a big U with I don't know how many stations, but we were like maybe 20 or 30 people sitting in one of the cars, and we wrote all the way to the other side and back. And that was fun also because
Wow.
people came in and came out and they were like, what are all these people sitting down here with laptops and writing?
What was your goal for that? Like what prompted you to do that on the subway?
It's just people are arranging this type of different parties, and that was one of them. And we were like, oh yeah, we can do that. I don't have to go too far. I just go to the station next to my home, sit there, and see other people doing the same thing. And the community is really a big thing about this.
Yeah, and it takes you out of your regular environment, right? And
Yeah.
so that's another one of the habits for creativity is to seek
Yeah.
novelty. So if you
Yeah.
just sit in your room and like don't go anywhere, it's going to be very difficult to collect new
Yeah.
experiences and get those aha moments, like when you were prompted by the Jewish verse about resurrection, and that
Right.
can create your book, and then all these other pieces that come together. We can't force those are things that we need to just. And today's theme for this month's theme is daydreaming. So like being on a subway can help you daydream and collect new experiences. And I just love the way that you encouraged your daughter and her friends and you got involved. Like what a fantastic. I would love to read a story about that. Maybe that would be another book or a blog post in your
for sure.
Cool.
Absolutely.
And even if you do something creative and you don't do a good job, even if people hated your writing, you get the same benefits. So like maybe in like 30 seconds, what would be the main benefits that you see in your life and at work from engaging your creativity with your writing?
Specifically for me or for anyone?
No, for you. Like, what do you see in your life as a direct benefit from engaging your creativity outside of your technically, your product management job?
It's being able to express myself and share ideas, because I also love to share my ideas with other people, and that's part of it. And there are many different ways to share it. So the writing, I think, is really helping me become better at that.
So finding your voice, expressing yourself.
Yeah.
I love that. Great. Yeah. Well, and for those of you just joining us, we're just getting ready to wrap up this amazing interview with Moshe, who is a product manager and also a fictional author. Sorry, I always have to think about fiction, nonfiction. Why do they name it that? Nonfiction should be not true. It shouldn't be the opposite. But anyway, Moshe is a nonfictional author who is writing a book has written a book called The Resurrector. I'm going to pop it up, the link in here. It's on pre-sale right now. So go and support Moshe in his book, author journey. And it sounds like a great book about reconnecting with people that come back from the dead. And I love that you have some personal investment in it, but it's not a personal story. I can't wait to read it. So this is our very first LinkedIn Live. So Moshe was totally keen to jump in and just give it a try. And I love that. I'm so thankful for you to join me in this interview. And I hope that this has helped other people figure out how they can tap into their creativity, writing on the subway or, writing in the bathroom on your iPod, like all kinds of different ways. And so we're going to end this off. We're going to start the tradition with you, Moshe. We're going to end it off with truth or dare, because we know it's challenging to step into uncertainty and to share our voice with the world. So ahead of time, we talked, and you said you wanted to pick truth. So the truth is to share a silly story or a story that kind of embarrassed you a little bit. And the dare, which you didn't choose, which is fine, is where I would dare you to do something on camera. But please share your truth, and we'll end that off with our interview off with that.
No problem. So so let me do the truth, and maybe the dare will be if I get to have my pre-sale completed by my birthday, which is on the 19th of the month. So you have 16 days to help me with that, and then I can dare and do something on camera for sure.
That would be great, and we can promote it. So yes, go and buy Moshe's book so we can make him do something really embarrassing.
I have an idea. Already for the embarrassing thing, but it could be also something of your choosing. But the truth is, maybe 10 years ago, maybe less, my wife and I, we went for Valentine to Second City here in Toronto. Oh. And after the intermission, they have an intermission, and after the intermission, we were sitting just by the aisle in the middle, but at the back, because we don't like to be picked on, so we don't ever sit in the front. And then the two guys that started the next, the part of the show, they came from behind us, and then they grabbed me and they pulled me out with them on the stage. And then they start in this entire thing about trying to embarrass me, doing things on the stage, like jump here, go under under a chair, do this, do that. So they were always like, I put some, shoe shine thing on my face, and this is like with the entire full house at Second City. And then at the end, they were like, okay, so now you have to tell us a story about something that you were really, really embarrassed, because it was all about embarrassing. And I had nothing in my head. It was like nothing. So they said, okay, so just take off your shirt. This will be embarrassing enough. So I took off my shirt.
So you took off your shirt? Is that what you said?
Yes, I took off the shirt. And then, afterwards, that was the end of that. So they let me go. But then everyone after was like, oh, you're the guy. And it was like...
That's funny.
Yeah.
Daniel says here, this has been fun. And I really appreciate you taking the time, Moshe, to share your creative talents and your creative journey and what holds you back and what helps you move forward. You can learn more about Moshe and Daniel says this has been fun. Thanks for joining, Daniel. You can learn more about Moshe at his website. And I'll put the links in the event if you want to follow up and buy and support Moshe's author journey. And if he gets to his funding goal, you don't get to pick the embarrassing thing, Moshe. That's not how this works. That's not how this works at all. I will choose something for you to do that will be safe and embarrassing, but hopefully fun.
Okay,
so
perfect.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. And I really appreciate you spending the time with us. Follow up. I'm going to be doing these interviews every week, mostly live. Next week's going to be a recording because I'll be in the backcountry with Natasha Purnell, who is an HR employee engagement ninja for an insurance company. She's going to share how she uses her creativity to help employee engagement. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Moshe. And
thank you very much, Caroline.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Take care, everyone.